All right, everybody, we are back. It's round 6 of the last chance qualifier for the Westpac Championship coming up this weekend. And we have a matchup here that we've selected between two players who are kind of on the cusp of one more loss will put their ticket into Westpac in jeopardy here
They're in
between,
danger.
Dipo Akanbi and Jeremy Khoo. And once again, I am Will Anderson and joined by former world champion David Eldar.
Someone approved of this game choice. Thank you very much. I was responsible.
That's true. I have to give it up to David for saying we should have a matchup between people on the bubble. And solid players here. We should get a pretty good game and
Yeah.
hopefully an even draw so that we've got some strategic nuance to cut our teeth into here.
Yeah, so I know quite a bit about Jeremy. I've played him a few times. He's been around for a long time. I think he's like a pretty decent 1900 player. Is that correct?
I think of him as being a very talented strategist, but if he has a weakness, it would be that perhaps he knows slightly fewer words than other players in his rating level. So I expect him
Okay.
to play a pretty solid strategic game of
Okay.
Scrabble. Don't know as much about Dipo, but I have to assume that there are players from the African continent that are excellent Scrabble players that do not get as much exposure here stateside. So I continue to be impressed
Yeah.
by players from those contingents.
We've
So
discussed before, me and you, Will, that Africa just has an endless well of, oh my God, wait, do you see his rack?
he has an interesting rack here. So Depot drawing 2 U's, which doesn't feel very good at first glance, but look at this. He's
That's
going
fast.
to slap down his valid bingo instantly.
Nice. Very nice find. Okay, Depot is already moving to 1800 plus.
And in the chat, Panasa Scrabble saying Depot is a former Nigerian
Oh,
Scrabble champion,
that
which
makes a lot of
means a
sense.
lot because of Nigeria's incredible strength and depth in their player pool. So no surprise then, given his background and pedigree, to see him spotting this very impressive bingo instantly.
Yeah, what I was going to say, I've watched Will's streams before, excuse me, and on the streams it just seems like an endless stream of 1800 players that I've never heard of.
Playing at a pretty crisp level.
Yeah, yeah, they're all pretty good.
So a great start for Depot here. On adult, he is undeterred by those 2 U's and spots his bingo immediately, barely 30 seconds off of his clock. That is a great start for him. And let's see what Jeremy has to respond.
That's fast. On adult. I don't know if anyone likes this game, but can I get it going in the chat? Guess the probability.
Yes, that is a fun game for sure. Okay, Jeremy's got kind of, he's not bingoing immediately with that V and Y, but at least he does have the S. The question that he has to be asking himself here is unadult. Is that an adjective meaning not adult, or is it a noun for somebody that is not an adult? So we know the answer is an adjective, but could we see an S hit the end of that word?
You know what? I'm actually fairly sure that Jeremy is going to know that. No way.
Don't do that. Yeah. Okay.
I think he's going to know that.
I tend to agree, but you never know. It could be tempting. So
Okay, we got a couple of guesses here in the chat: 8,000, 12,000, 3,333. Just for anyone who's not 100% sure how probability works, all of the words in Scrabble of any given length are ordered on a program called Ziziva in probability. And for 7-letter words, there's about 34,000. So an adult will fall somewhere between 0 and 34,000. And the person who gets closest to that gets the prize of being the probability master.
yes, the prize of the respect of former world champion David Eldar and myself too. I would give it up to somebody that gets the right answer to that.
I'm actually going to take a stab here. I'm going
Okay.
to say 24.
I would definitely put it in the 20,000s for sure. Probably the low to mid 20,000s. As Jeremy getting rid of that V and Y with Davy, that looks like a reasonable option here. Even if he doesn't think that unadult takes an S hook.
Oh,
And
here it comes.
wow.
That is fast.
What an impressive play by Depot, immediately following up his bingo of unadult with Intifada. That is a tremendous play.
Wow, great find. And I was actually about to follow up and ask what the alternate spellings are of that, but they've already been given in the chat, unfortunately.
Yeah, the definition bot giving us that info, but you can see that Jeremy is going to respond with intifadas and soprano here. So
Yeah.
he is by no means, despite the first two plays of the game for Dipo being bingos, he is by no means out of this if he's able to spot this here.
Someone helping me out here saying he's a Nigerian master player, and these are quite easy finds for him. That's good to know. And yeah, he's 300 WESPA points lower than Upayemi, as someone points out, but he's definitely a better player, I would say, with no insult to either one. That, being a better player doesn't make you a better person or anything, just means you've probably put a lot more time into mastering the game.
Well, I would say having more rating points makes you a better person.
Yeah, well, that's why I keep mine nice and high.
Yeah.
Got to sit in the high ratings chair.
Bigger rating, better person. Those are words to live by for me, anyway.
True. Well, Jeremy is going to be trying to get his rating up by finding this easy bingo. I wonder what he's thinking.
Yeah, he's looks like he's sort of in pain as he's mulling this over.
Yeah,
but
has he not quite spotted this, or is he not sure if intifada pluralizes? I think he'll know that word as a common English word.
I do too, and it's being pointed out that Dipo with another possible bingo, it would be blocked by soprano of axonemes.
Oh wow!
From the A of intifada, that second A. The first A would get blocked by Davy.
Yeah.
But that would be an unbelievable 1-2-3 punch to start the game.
Even
by
then,
Dipo.
though, he's going to play XO, FEY, AX, and DO for like 50.
Very true.
Yeah, he's in very, very good shape. And
so Jeremy really needs to spot, and it looks like you guys have pointed out the anagram of soprano of proneos. That is a very obscure anagram. There he has it.
He hasn't seen soprano, right?
It doesn't seem like he has.
Way.
No.
Also, can we get Ziziva up? I feel like I need to answer my previous question that I gave out. I feel bad for not telling you what the probability of unadult. Or can someone tell us what the answer is in the chat? I felt bad for asking a quiz that I didn't give an answer to.
I can definitely get it here for us.
All right, that's very helpful.
Jeremy really needs to see soprano here. I worry also that he's going to try unadults and get no points at all if he feels that he has to play proneos here. Where does that even play?
Patroons, polarons.
True. Okay, so he'll opt for one of those instead.
Unadult 18524. Whoever said 18,000. Thanks very much, Benji Scrabble. I think someone got pretty close to that. So well done to that person. Sorry for the super late answer.
Yeah, a critter got very close.
Well
so
done.
That's like the GeoGuessr equivalent of Scrabble there. When you're like a mile off from.
And 2 U's that high up, we've never seen it coming.
Yeah, it must just be the other stuff is pretty synergistic.
That's why it's a great game.
Yeah.
All right, I'll stop.
So yeah, I mean, just for those that are wondering what those numbers mean, it just is a ranking of what is the likelihood that you would see a certain word come up in Scrabble. So what that means with that 18,524 number, it means that there are 18,523 words that are likelier to appear in a Scrabble game than unadult at 7 letters in length.
Absolutely.
So, that's a lot of words. But at this level, you really do see players learning literal thousands of words. And, it looks like Jeremy is just going to play Poe. So this is a big, big miss. And I'm very curious to see if Dipo will just plop another bingo down here. Or even, as you said, David, he might just cash his X and move on.
That's a big ouchie. Do you think he spotted axonemes? I mean, he had no problem spotting unadult intifada, and I think axonemes is above 18,000.
I feel like he's got a good chance at it, but it also feels a little bit like he may not see it yet.
That was a shocker for Jeremy.
So Scrabble says he lined up axonemes earlier.
Wait, what?
I didn't see that.
I didn't see him lining up.
But maybe he did. Anyway, exam looks like if you're not going to see axonemes, which, by the way, it is a play that allows very big comeback along the triple lane. So missing it is probably not optimal, but it's also not terribly damaging because exam really gives up
No,
nothing in
that's,
response.
well, two things. One, that's probably like a 10-point equity mistake, but more importantly is that when you're this far ahead, you're like 98% to win the game again. So missing things when you're 98% to win the game actually is no longer very important. What's important is you play a valid word, you keep scoring, and you move the game along.
And minimizing that worst case scenario, which
Exactly.
frankly, after axonemes, a worst case scenario would be a massive overlap underneath
Absolutely.
that word hitting a
Yeah.
triple word
Yeah.
score. So as misses go, that is not one to be too upset about
No,
there.
it's not the end of the world.
So Jeremy's got another good set of tiles. I certainly would hope he would find oronasal here to the L of unadult at a
Yeah.
minimum.
Yeah. By the way, he had Proneos lined up, so he knows an adult doesn't take an S.
Yeah, that makes sense. It is surprising, though, to your point, that he did not play the eights that were available
I'm
through those
I'm
letters,
shocked he missed all that stuff. He's must be pretty rusty or extremely nervous.
or just
Just having a
maybe travel
total,
lagged or
yeah,
something
that's
like
true.
that. You
Yeah,
never
it's
know.
pretty coming from far away. I don't know where exactly it's coming from, but
Yeah.
I mean, certainly for me, coming from Australia, I just had my first proper sleep last night. It took a full week. So I wouldn't, anyone coming from where would he be coming from? The UK?
I don't man, Jeremy has been doing school in the US and
Okay,
then the
okay.
UK,
Yeah,
and, like, I'm not even sure
yeah.
where, and originally from Singapore,
Okay.
so it's hard to know where he's been.
Yeah,
But either way, from somewhere likely far flung.
he's gonna be tired.
So he does spot or nasal. So that is at least some consolation, though, of course, it opens up a lot for Dipo.
There's
Um,
surely a bingo here, right?
it really looks
Yeah,
like
there's something through the R I can see, through the I.
there should be something
Um,
here.
Definitely through the I and the R. I'll leave it to the chat to point them out.
Yeah, given his immediate plays of unadult and intifada, I believe we will be very likely to see another bingo here, and you can see he's lined up the bingo through the I.
It's interesting. I'm just gonna check the. I just kind of want to check the probability of axonym. Yeah, so axonemes is 11,000. That's pretty weird. So he had no problem finding intifada or unadult, which was 18,000.
It's surprising,
So
yeah.
I wonder if he's been learning words in a different way other than probability.
Could be. It is customary at a certain level for players to learn those words in the most efficient way possible. So you're wanting to learn the most probable word, number one, whatever that is, and work your way up the list because you're getting diminishing returns each word you learn. So you want to start with the most impactful ones and work your way down. But players should basically learn the words in whatever way keeps them going, right? You
Yeah,
want to come up with
yeah.
a regimen that makes you
Well,
happy to learn more.
where I'm going with this is definitely in at least Western culture, Scrabble. We're learning all the words by probability. That's how we traditionally do it.
Sure.
But are things different? Is he Nigerian?
Well, we got from the chat the news that he was the
Oh yeah, of
Nigerian
course.
champion, so
Well,
I'm
I guess
assuming.
probably, but I guess anyone could compete in that.
True,
I'm not
that's
sure.
true. I don't know if that's a lock that he is Nigerian. Perhaps some of our Nigerian friends out there in the chat that know Depot better can help us
Yeah,
with that.
maybe someone can tell us if it's not traditional to learn using Ziziva, which are the tools we traditionally use. And yep, he is Nigerian. Thanks very much, Panessa Scrabble. And what's the most traditional way of learning words if you're from Nigeria? And what order do you learn them in?
Yeah, it's that does not there's room for differences across,
Yeah,
cultures and countries about how you would do that. And again, I really do believe in, as we see another bingo for Depot, he spots Senesios here. Pretty impressive
yeah,
display so far by him. The only quote unquote blemish being axonemes. He's had playable bingos on every turn. Jeremy, you want to say that through no fault of Jeremy's, but then again, that miss of soprano and intifadas would have been
yeah.
huge for him here.
That was a game changer. Unfortunately, I think now, how is he? What can you even do? It's
Well, he
got a V and a
has
U.
Visual, so that rack, again, we saw it previously in our last game at some point where Nick Ball, playing against Opiemi Aloro, had a rack of OOUUV, and we remarked at that time that the VU combination is particularly toxic. But Jeremy is doing one better than that and has the VUW combination on his rack. Very few words with
That's got to
those.
be up there with III, at least a -20, I reckon.
Yeah, really, really bad set of letters. Very, very few words containing all three of those in one word. And what words there are that contain all three of those become of outsized importance in Scrabble. You see them all the time. One of them is just queried in the chat, Vru, the Dutch
Is that
word.
how that's said? Vru?
I'm sure not. I'm
Okay,
sure
I'm just
not.
wondering. Oh, is
Frau.
that Frau? It's just another way of saying
Frau.
Frau?
Yeah, Frau. I think that's like a
Okay,
Fraulein.
interesting. Quiz for the chat. What's the other word in the dictionary that ends in OUW?
Oh, that's a great one. I don't know the answer offhand.
Really? Okay.
No.
Wow,
So I'll have to.
you're letting me down here.
I know. I'm
Boom,
very.
straight away, Stuart
Oh,
Holden.
Stuart, very nice. Coming up with that. I know that
Yeah,
word. I
of
just
course.
couldn't come up with
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
Jeremy plays wood, getting rid of his W and U. That seems all right, but it looks like another bingo is coming down.
Something very helpful in the chat here. Uncommon Nigerian. He does learn by probability too, but his many years of experience have exposed him to many uncommon words, and he has a great memory.
That's
Okay, so
great
there we go.
context. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's
Uncommon Nigerian.
yeah, dude. If you have any more context to provide to us, that would be super helpful. It's really appreciated. It's good to know this kind of stuff.
Yeah, agreed. It adds a lot of flavor. And yeah, 2 blanks still unseen after Dipo bingoing 4 times in his first 5 turns of the game. He could easily pull another blank and make that 5 out of 6.
I like these comments next to each other. Game's not over yet, and then still 2 blanks for Dipo to draw. Yeah, I
true.
think that's sounding more like it to me. Looking at Jeremy's rack.
So if you're just joining us for the afternoon session, you've seen Opiemi Aloro get out to an enormous lead against Nick Ball, and now Dipo Akanbi get out to an enormous lead against Jeremy Khoo. I assure you that not all games are like this in Scrabble. This is a pretty small percentage of overall games that are so lopsided from the get-go, and hopefully, if we're lucky, in round 7 and 8, we'll get one that's a little bit closer.
Conspiracy.
Yeah,
It's a conspiracy.
they're doing this because finally the dream team of the two of us is assembled, and we can't get to some great games to dive into. But all right, baggy for Dipo after Vinier for Jeremy. Those seem like fine plays.
Yep.
Looks like Jeremy gets a blank, and a Q to go with it, of course.
Standard. It's interesting to see how quickly Dipo is. By the way, am I saying that right? Dipo or Dipo?
I would say Dipo.
I'm going with Dipo here.
Yeah.
But please feel free to correct me. Oh crap! What was I going to say? Oh yeah, his speed.
The speed.
He's played at an extreme speed.
19.
I wonder if he always plays that fast, or if his letters were so thoughtless that he was able to just throw stuff down.
Yeah. And I was checking it to see if he had another bingo here. I thought, but yeah, as Noah's in SL44 in the chat querying, I wondered if splented.
Sprinted?
I think, yeah, is sprinted a word? Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
So that's what I was thinking.
Oh my God! Sorry, Panessa Scroll tells me, David, you have played the diaspora with Dipo in attendance, I believe. So please accept my apologies if that's true, but we don't have proof, so I'm gonna say that it probably didn't happen. No, I hope that's not true, but I'm not sure we've ever played, to be honest.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, we've played a lot of Scrabble all around the world. It's tough sometimes to remember
There's a lot of
the full Rolodex of who you've played.
Yeah.
So Jeremy is down by over 200. He's got a blank, but also a Q to go with it. It's not going to be an easy choice for him.
Yeah, QI coming down here.
Dump that QI and try to draw a bingo shortly. That's the right place for it in that corner. Getting a solid number of points seems good to me.
And yeah, I guess now Dipo will just make some sort of overlap over the top of war times, probably.
Maybe he'll try Splinted and get it challenged off. It's
Yeah.
kind of given that splint is a word. I think potentially a synonym of splint, but not a verb.
It's a word that takes S. Splint.
I think
Splints.
so, or maybe
In
not.
my brain, it's past tense. Never mind. Splints. Does anyone know
Yeah,
what splint is?
I think it's just a splint, but I don't. I
It's
don't
a
know.
splint. So
Well,
I know what
somebody
I'm
will.
thinking of.
Somebody will help.
I'm thinking of sklint.
That's right.
This is
That's right.
a great conversation here.
All right. So looks like he's just playing pelted. That seems
That's
totally fine. Blocking a lot of the stuff open with war times.
that's what I would call an adult play. He's playing like an adult.
As opposed to unadult.
Yeah. He's ending this game.
So Jeremy will bingo here. It certainly feels like Jeremy could just bingo 3 or 4 times from here on out and probably still be trailing in the game.
I think so, yeah.
But you guys are spotting some of the options that he has there in the chat. Apogean, Anagoj, any of those underneath Baggy will be just fine.
Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the score gets to. There's always quizzes.
True.
Yeah.
That's something I can't offer. That is the David Eldar experience for you guys.
But tell me if you guys have had enough, though.
I'm sure they want as many more as you're willing to give. But,
all right.
Well,
just one voice of encouragement is all I needed.
Yeah, there you go.
Good
Adam
content.
Adam
Thanks,
wants
Adam,
the quizzes.
555.
Other people had said they wanted more before.
The outermost point in an orbit is an apogee.
Yes, the apogee.
What is GEE? Because there's a few words that end in G, like apogee, perigee.
So like what is it etymologically when you tack it on? I'm not really sure.
And perigee is the point which it is nearest to the Earth. So I guess apogee and perigee are opposites, maybe.
Yeah, it looks like it. Some yin and yang of an orbit of a celestial body.
And what's weird is there's epigean, epigeic, and whatever, but epigee is not valid.
That's true. Yeah, that's again the dictionary betraying us as it so often does.
Yeah.
So nice bingo for Jeremy. He cuts the gap to 130-ish, and Dipo doesn't have the best track. It looks like he's going to challenge it as well, just to be sure. An extra 5 points, not really going to make a dent in things for him. As up they go to the challenge computer.
Epigean, growing, close to the ground. All right.
Look at all those synonyms.
I'm out of ideas here.
There are some words that have so many synonyms that it's just comical, such as the classic cloak with wide sleeves, the galabia.
Yeah.
That one is pretty amazing. There's like 20 variations of that.
Yeah, they're impossible to remember as well. Well, it's impossible to remember which one is not valid.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really tough. Ganef, another good one for sure.
What can Dipo do here? He's actually not able to score 80 this turn.
That's incredible. He's going to have to make a non-bingo play. He's done that 2 times already this game in comparison to his 4 bingos.
Are we looking at PERN here? Just the standard equity, keep
Seems
good letters
fine.
on your rack.
Yeah, and
it's
interesting to play PERN as opposed to PERC. The reason that you would probably play PERN is twofold. One, Dipo has 2 N's, and you'd like to use one of those 2, and the other, putting the C out in that upper right corner of the board is a much more dangerous tile to put than an N in the same spot. So I do feel like PERN is warranted.
Yeah, for sure. By the way, Acritor helping us out here in the chat. G is like Gaia, like the Earth. So those words are Earth-related words.
Well, it sounds like he's getting modded for some reason. Perhaps I don't know.
Dropping too much knowledge.
Yeah, the knowledge is too intense, and AutoMod had to sort of rate limit him.
Oh, Evil Budgie says I want to block that Z spot in Dipo's position. I can totally get on board with that. So what I was about to say is sometimes when the score gets this imbalanced, totally weird moves become the optimal moves that would normally just be totally terrible, because the computer analysis has shown to us that you need to avoid the worst case scenario, which can often involve very counterintuitive moves.
Yeah, it is a really good point. I feel like that is more often the case in my experience. It is equally the case when you're up or down by that number
Yeah,
of
yeah,
points,
yeah.
but I feel it more as a player when I'm down by a huge
Oh,
number of
really?
points that
Okay,
I
interesting.
need to come up with some plan that's really creative if I'm going to try to win this.
Yeah.
Like the usual moves just won't get it done. You have to do something really creative when you're down by these scores.
See, that's funny you feel that way because I feel the
The
opposite.
opposite. Okay.
Yeah. When I'm down, I play nice and standard. Anyway, sorry, I won't get too much into this. I'm
Oh,
going to quickly read a comment here. Panassa Scrabble. It is not likely he would play Pern. A Nigerian in the lead is unlikely to open another X3 spot. He's thinking of blocking the ZE spot. So, hearing a lot here about different styles from different countries and how that can culturally develop.
makes sense, yeah. The actual play that he will make to block that spot on top of the E of Apogeian, that's the spot we're talking about as being so lucrative potentially for the Z. It's not really clear to me, what the best play is there.
CERNE
Y
there
y
being suggested. That's also something I thought of. I would probably never play that myself, but I could totally see a case for it, and I could even see the
CERN, yeah.
computer liking it.
Yeah, another suggestion of Krenna as well to the A of Apogeian would
Yeah,
block it and undouble all the duplicated tiles on Dipo's rack.
yeah. So the question is that Z spot the absolute worst case scenario here for him?
It may well be. It certainly doesn't look like there are too many bingo threats that would give him pause. It does feel like an 100-point play in that spot on top of Apogeian is the most present
Yeah,
threat to
yeah.
him here. So
100 points and then draw the blank.
that
That's how you get your 1% through.
yeah, for sure. So I'm agreeing with the comments here about that being the clear and present danger to deal with, and then just move on. And it looks like
Look, he's
CERN. Look
thinking
at
about it.
that. Yeah,
Unbelievable. I'd love to see a simulation on this in case anyone's got it up in the background.
there it is. So obviously the downside of a play like this clearly is Depot up by 100. You're taking a really small score here
Yes.
to block
Yeah.
that threat. I think we agree that it
Yep.
makes sense strategically to block that spot, but you do open yourself up. If you make too many plays like this in a row, you do open yourself up to sort of getting outscored, Jeremy outscoring his way back into the game.
Yeah. You
So
could you could lose to two bingos.
of course, the board is it's getting tighter all the time. Apogeian, an adjective, does not take an S.
Yeah, that's true.
So there's definitely not a ton of space, but it still could happen. These types of things can and do
It's
happen.
the thing about it is that it's got to do with palpability. The Z spot is a very feelable spot. It's very easy to understand from a simplistic level how you can lose to a Z score, scoring 100 followed by a bingo. But it's actually a lot harder to visualize losing to two 80-point bingos on such a crowded board. But that can absolutely happen, and it does absolutely happen about the same percentage, probably.
Yeah, it's true. There definitely are mistakes in evaluation that human beings are apt to make in that regard, where you see this obvious spot
Yeah.
that needs to be dealt with, or you feel you need to deal with it, and you discount these more nebulous possibilities where there's a much larger sort of space of outcomes
Yeah.
that are more difficult to point to any one individual way that you could give up two bingos here. But accounting for that and planning accordingly is difficult, but very
to
important.
to dig a little deeper, even more so, is one of the things that people in general like to. The way we like to think is pain avoidance, essentially. So if you lost by way of the Z bomb for 100 and then the bingo, oh my God,
The
so
pain index
obvious.
would be off the
Yeah,
charts.
you would,
Yeah,
oh, I knew it was coming. I saw it coming all along. But if you lost in the other way, you can almost just say, oh my God, my opponent was so lucky. Who would have ever seen that coming?
right.
But I mean, that's not how playing the game strategically works. It's kind of like Did anyone catch that dude that served underarm at the Wimbledon at 8-8 in the final tiebreak? Did you see that?
I think I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that could have been a genius play, but because he screwed it up and he just got crushed, everyone's like, what the hell is wrong with you, dude? Why didn't you just serve normally? Why didn't you just block that Z spot?
Yeah. That is the same in a lot of sports as
Yeah.
well. I know for example, in NFL football, it is now finally starting to be accepted that on 4th down, you should go for it a lot of the time on short yardage. You might not know what the hell I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
that was
Um,
literally a different language.
yeah, but in the past, there were coaches that even though it was sort of mathematically provable that you should go for it on 4th and short, if you go for it and fail, you would just get killed
Yeah, right.
by sports journalists and
Yeah,
your fan
exactly.
base,
Exactly.
even though mathematically it is correct to do.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
all that being said, I do think that blocking that Z spot with CERN makes a lot of sense for Depot. We're not nitpicking him on this, but
No.
just rather to show that Scrabble has a little bit more nuance than you might give it credit for.
Yeah, there's a lot of depth to that kind of situation. In fact, those kind of situations are often the most common situations, and that is reflected by Depot spending a full 4 to 5 minutes on that turn.
Yeah, which as we've seen, he's plopped his bingos down nearly instantaneously when he's had them. So he did use his time appropriately in a much trickier, more
Yeah.
nuanced scenario
Anyway,
there.
you can forget blocking now. He's just going to play John, John, and
Yeah.
CH and EN for however many points,
Yeah.
and we're all going to go home.
Yeah. And this does have the effect of blocking a bunch of
Yeah.
threats on the board, but
Yeah.
also that doesn't need to be the reason he's playing it. It happens to also score a
Now
boatload of
the
points.
equity, there comes a point where the equity is just so high that you don't need to worry about blocking anymore, and you can just play your very high score move.
And there it is.
Yeah.
So John for Depot for a pretty nice score, putting him up to 4-5-6. Nice sequential score there. Jeremy down by quite a bit here, even though he's got that nice blank Z. Maybe he can, I was going to say, he can fish an E and try to draw an A for Sadaka.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
But even that is not likely to be enough if
That's
he were to
definitely
hit
not
it.
going to win.
So also there are no A's for him to draw anyway. So
Oh, we've got the unseen up there, right?
yeah. So thank you to producer Christian for that. But yeah, he's at this point. You're looking at trying to cut the gap. I guess he could either burn the blank now and play Ursats through the S of Senesios, or he could try to draw an R to do that without burning his blank. Just
Yeah, I see it.
popping it down for a
Five
decent
in the
score.
bag. What about
Oh,
just
yeah,
teak on the top right, TEEK, leaving a couple
that
in
looks
the
good. Yeah.
leaving a couple in the bag. Got the Z in hand. Can probably get our sats next turn anyway. Actually, yeah, there's a couple of R's left. You can get our
You
sats
can
next
redraw
turn.
it.
And you may even redraw something even bigger. And most importantly, you don't empty the bag.
All seems good. I guess if you were really interested in keeping the letters for Ursats together, you could also play alongside John,
Yeah.
Kae, in that spot.
Yeah.
Oh, that would burn your A. You can't do that.
No, you need
Yeah.
5 tiles, so you can only burn
Yeah,
2,
yeah, never
obviously.
mind. So that is a nice place to parallel, but if you're going to
Lots-
play Ursats, you might need to do it
Lots
now.
and lots of options here. Unfortunately, none of them will have any real effect on the 1 or 0 effect of this game, but
True.
spread matters.
Yeah, especially for these two players where it seems clear at this point that Depot is definitely going to win. But if you're Jeremy here, you do have to try to narrow that gap as much as you can, because you really are, with 3 losses, you are very likely entering a scenario where your ability to qualify for WESPA is going to be determined by that tiebreaker. So cutting that gap is critical.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not surprised he's spending his time thinking here.
Still with 5 minutes to go, so he's got a little bit more time to think it over. I wonder.
Terzetta.
That's a good point. So I guess if he's got to get rid of his K to try to draw into that.
Drop KE, go for Terzetta.
That's not a bad idea. That would be, and it's given
Eek.
the fact that
No, you
the
can't.
draws that he
Yeah.
needs, he's got those 2 R's he can draw. So that's better than none, certainly, but even better than 1 R.
Is that 4? So how does this work, actually? Help me out with the maths. We got time here. So if he plays EK drawing into Terzetta, what are his chances of pulling that out? And any maths majors in the chats?
So it's the chance of drawing ER from this
Yeah.
pool. So
So
it's
there's 2 combos. Wait, hang on. How many combos are there? There's 2 combos of. Help me out. 4? Is it 4 different combinations?
so 4 discrete combinations that for our purposes are identical to draw. So
50% either he
E
does or he doesn't. Yeah.
I mean, I think many people tell that joke. I definitely do.
I'm also guilty.
But yeah, I think it's 4 discrete combinations out of however
So
many there are
how
total.
many air quotes discrete possible combinations are there altogether? Is that something you know?
No, I mean, I should probably learn how to do these
Me
calculations,
too.
but I don't know the
All
numbers.
I can see looking at the unseen is Biofowler screaming at me.
Yeah, it does look like there are, there's 4 sets of duplicated letters in there, so that does reduce the number of total combinations that can be
Oh,
drawn.
Evil Budgie in the chat, thank you very much. It's 4 divided
4
by
out of
12
12
times.
times 2 divided by 11.
Oh, okay. And what does that add up to percentage-wise?
Well, I guess we can calculate that. So
Nigerians have come to stay, says Pet Rock 1234. Yeah, I hope so.
I mean,
6%. Wow, that's actually quite significant for 5 in the bag, like a 6% chance.
So the funny thing is he went ahead and he played EK like we wanted him to, but he blocked the spot that we hoped he would draw into. So
maybe he thinks it takes
let's
an
see what
E.
he draws. BU, so not exactly what he needed anyway. So and immediate play of fire and with that interesting spelling. Parallel to John, that looks great. I guess it seems hard to imagine a bingo fitting anywhere on the board after this play.
Dipo's just thinking of Vegas and the F Mirage.
Yeah. So all right. So we are going to see ersatz. Looks like Jeremy was aware of it, potentially trying to draw an R to set himself up better in the end game to have a blank to work with on his next move. Instead, he burns the blank, scoring quite well.
For the next game, could make a good showdown depending on who Jeremy's getting, as they're both potentially at risk. Him and his opponent to be are potentially at risk of being knocked out.
Yeah, for sure. So we will definitely pay attention to who is on that bubble.
Yeah.
And again, this is round 6. We have 2 more rounds, and the format here is that the top 10 finishers will qualify. I believe it was said that there would be a minimum of 10, and depending on how many people competed in the tournament, it could be more.
Okay.
But it's going to be, I think, the top 10 here will advance. So again, in the chat on Twitch, if you want to see the standings, you can type !LCQ. That will bring up the link to see the standings. For Josh Sokol fans out there, I'm seeing a couple people saying that he lost his previous game, which is going to make things tough.
Is he on 3 as well? Could this be Sokol versus Jeremy Khoo?
It easily could be, and I think that would be a great matchup to watch.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the pairing.
Sokol just coming off winning the American Championships, now trying his hand at moving to the worldwide scene. On the cusp of being knocked out, that sounds like high stakes to me.
Yeah, it's a pretty juicy storyline.
Yeah.
So yeah, and as one of the few players insane enough to routinely switch from lexicon to lexicon, it's not that easy to do. And I know for a fact that Josh has not spent that much time learning the Collins dictionary. So the fact that he's even in the mix at all, very impressive, of course.
And props to him for trying it out. A lot of people would be like, "Oh, I haven't practiced," or blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Just go, get in there,
just
get
play.
in there.
It's fun. It's still Scrabble.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
it's
what
still
I think.
Fun to play. You don't need to perform to enjoy yourself or for some imaginary audience.
Yeah, I certainly agree in general that just having a little fun and playing some Scrabble, regardless of the dictionary, is more important to me than worrying too much.
Couldn't agree more.
But all right, so Jeremy, after ersatz, is sitting with BU. It doesn't look like he has any amazing plays for that. So for Dipo, he's probably just thinking, what is the best that I can do here with my low point tiles, including 4 vowels.
He's definitely taking his time here.
Yeah. This I don't think is any kind of a mind game or anything. This is just one of those situations where, as we keep saying, it really does matter how many points you win by. As far as Dipo knows, he could lose his last 2 games, and every point of spread that he can get now is really
honestly
important.
maybe some other people feel this way. But if I'm in Dipo's shoes and I have a rack like that, and I know I have to sort of think of the way to get the most spread, my brain just turns off. I'm like, oh.
It's tough, right? Like we all know the stories and the legends of players like Nigel Richards who are so accurate with their end game play. No matter the scenario, they could be winning by 300, losing by 300, and they will still find, as we see Jeremy putting his B onto unadult for bun adult, and he picks it up and plays the normal bun.
Bunadon, maybe.
But yeah, just to finish my point, most human beings actually need to conserve energy. And when there is a sort of a game that's long since lost, burning that energy, finding the perfect end game sequence might not be the best use of your brain power.
Definitely doesn't feel that way.
But if you have that type of brain, more power to you. I don't.
Yeah, no, I don't think you're alone. I think that's proven in the stats where Nigel performs at 99% correct end games, was it? Quackle at 95, and everyone else from the top 10 at 50%.
If that, yeah. I think the numbers that I saw were something like Nigel makes a mistake every 85 end games.
85.
And the next closest person makes a mistake every 3 end games or
Which
something
are
like
the
that.
ones that he messes up? They're the multi-move ones, aren't
They're
they?
almost always,
it's like the ones where an out in 4, right?
Yes, it's almost always like that. And sometimes it's not even clear to me that he's underperforming the machine, the AI engine that we use. So, all right, Dipo with an important win here as he just had an unstoppable onslaught of bingos from the get-go. He's chuckling. You see him laughing, both players laughing at the absurdity of how the game started. But a tough loss for Jeremy. But maybe if he wins his next 2 games, he can still sneak his way in.
It can be done. It can be done. By the way, in the chat, if anyone's thinking any feedback, anything we should comment on more or less or change, let us know.
Yeah, hopefully you guys are having fun.
Yeah.
The 2 of us, of course, will be competing tomorrow. So we're happy to get a chance to do a little commentary here. Feedback, commentate more. Thanks, Nitz. Appreciate that. Of course, tomorrow, as I just said, we're going to be playing and others will be commentating. And we are, just a quick plug. We are giving the sort of lead commentator, Matt Canick, who, if you've been watching the stream all along this past week and today, he's been guiding you guys, and he's done an incredible job. I got to say, let's give Matt Canick some love in the chat. If you guys have been listening to the stream for the better part of the last week and been enjoying Matt's commentary, let us know now. He's been, I think, doing an amazing job.
He's doing a great job. Absolutely.
So anyway, that seems like the players have squared up their tiles to get things ready for the next game. And maybe what we'll do, as we've done a couple times now previously, is take a little break and be back in just a couple minutes.
Here's what I'm asking for: a close game. Just give me one. Just give me one.
That would be great. I would love a game that 10 turns in, the outcome was in doubt.
We got to pick someone that's on the real edge. I need some high stakes, blood pumping.
You want to see a crushing bingo come down to send this guy to the rail.
Yeah, that's right.
And
get out of here
and be eliminated for WESPA.
You're playing in WESPA spades every day.
Yes. Yeah. We want to see that crestfallen look on somebody's face as their dream of qualifying comes to an abrupt and
no more mirage
and just completely disastrous end. That's what we want. So with that, we will cut to break and hope that we get that experience.
All right. See you soon, guys. See you soon.